The Galactic King had never seen a human in person, and he expected them to look smaller, weaker. Certainly not like the woman now standing before him, calm, unsmiling, her hands folded neatly behind her back, as if she were attending a board meeting rather than the end of her species. Her name was Ambassador Karen Hayes, Earth's envoy to the Galactic throne. She wore no armor, no medals, only a gray suit with a small blue Earth emblem on her collar. The enormous marble-like chamber of Velcora Prime gleamed around her, lined with alien species from every corner of the Empire, each glittering with bio-armor and arrogance. Above her, the Galactic King lounged upon a throne of obsidian glass. His four golden eyes shimmered as he sneered, "You came alone, human?" Karen smiled faintly. "Your Majesty, humanity prefers to travel light. Easier to leave quickly if things go wrong." A ripple of laughter passed through the hall. The king's advisors hissed to one another, their translator beads whispering insults in 100 dialects. "Primitive humor," one snorted. Karen tilted her head, pretending not to hear. "You wanted Earth's formal surrender. I'm here to deliver our answer." The king leaned forward, his metallic robes whispering, "You will surrender unconditionally. Humanity will become a vassal species. In exchange, I will spare what remains of your cities." Karen blinked once, slow and deliberate. Mercy from conquerors who glassed 13 colonies and burned the moon soil. That's generous. She smiled politely, and it somehow made the king flinch. A camera drone drifted near. The entire galaxy was watching the broadcast. Billions of beings waited to see Earth finally kneel. Karen reached into her satchel and produced a small silver tablet. "Our terms," she said simply. The king's laughter thundered across the hall. "Your terms?" "Of course," Karen replied. "Surrender is a two-party event. We thought it only polite to contribute." For a moment, no one spoke. The aliens exchanged bewildered glances, unsure whether to be offended or amused. Karen tapped the tablet, and the hologram projected an image, a map of the Sol system, glowing, pulsing, each planet marked with crimson energy readings. "Your Majesty," she said softly, "Earth has been preparing for peace." A low chuckle rumbled from one of the generals. "By arming your moons. By understanding you," she said. "Humans study threats. It's a hobby right between coffee and sarcasm." Her tone was dry, her smile almost playful, but her eyes never moved from a king's. Something in that steady gaze, too calm, too focused, began to unsettle the room. The king rose from his throne, towering over her. "Do you truly think your kind can defy the Empire's fleets? You are outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Karen took a slow sip from a cup she'd brought. The scent of coffee drifted strangely across the hall, earthy and human. "You might be right," she said. "But numbers don't scare us. We used to count calories before every war. It built character." The king's claws scraped against the throne's edge. "Enough riddles. Your species is broken. Your fleets are gone." She exhaled softly, as if tired of small talk. "Your Majesty, have you ever heard of buffering?" He frowned. "A human term? It's what happens when something powerful is waiting for everything else to catch up." Her wristband flashed briefly, almost unnoticeably. Somewhere far beyond Velcora, in the cold vacuum of Sol, a dozen dormant satellites blinked to life. A murmur rippled through the alien court, a faint distortion in their comms, a static hum that crawled through every channel. The king's head jerked upward. What was that? Karen didn't look away. "Oh, nothing urgent. Just a signal sinking across our network. Takes a while to reach the edges of your empire." The generals shouted orders, sensors flickering, but the interference vanished as quickly as it came. The king turned back to her, his voice now edged with suspicion. "Explain this insolence." Karen shrugged lightly. "Earth was told to surrender by dawn. I suppose our dawn just takes longer to arrive out here." For the first time, her tone lost its warmth. The smile faded. The stillness in her expression was surgical, a quiet precision that made even the bravest alien shift uneasily. She stepped closer to the throne. "You wanted surrender. You'll get something that looks a lot like it. Silence, stillness, waiting. But when it ends, Your Majesty, she paused, studying him as if deciding whether to continue. You'll realize we don't do peace the way you think we do. The king glared down. Are you threatening me? Karen's voice was polite, almost apologetic. Oh no. Just clarifying expectations. We wouldn't want miscommunication between empires. The hall buzzed with restrained anger. An alien aide hissed, she mocks us. Another shouted for her arrest. But the king raised one clawed hand. Let her finish, he commanded. Karen tilted her head again, a small gesture, oddly graceful. There's really nothing more to say. You asked for Earth's response, and I'm authorized to deliver it personally. She reached for the tablet again, pressed one final key, and the hologram dissolved into words. Transmission, Operation Dawnfire, initiated. The lights flickered. The broadcast drones froze midair. Every screen across the hall flashed red, then white, then black. The king's advisors shouted in confusion, but Karen only looked up, watching the vaulted ceiling, as though listening to distant thunder. That, she said gently, was the sound of misunderstanding. Security rushed forward, weapons raised, plasma bolts humming. Karen lifted her hands in surrender, perfectly calm. Oh, don't worry, she said. I'm just the messenger. Humanity's reply takes a little longer to travel. The lights stabilized. The signal interference vanished again. To the watching galaxy, it appeared as a mere glitch, a hiccup in the live broadcast. But somewhere far away, on the dark side of Mars, a dozen human command ships woke from hibernation. Karen smoothed her sleeve and looked back at the furious king. We appreciate your patience, Your Majesty, she said, her voice silk over steel. We're still sinking. The king's voice trembled with anger. Sinking what? She smiled at him, soft, almost pitying. Retaliation. And as the words left her lips, the camera drone caught that faint, polite smile, the kind of smile that every human makes before something irreversible happens. The Galactic broadcast cut to static. On board the USS Wyoming, space was a sea of quiet steel and humming nerves. The command deck glowed dimly in emergency red, screens alive with coded streams of light. General Rico Alvarez sat at the center, boots up on the console, eating cold pizza like a man who'd been through too many wars to be impressed by another. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Malik Jones, stood behind him, arms crossed, watching the live feed from Velcora flicker into static. She said it. Malik asked, disbelief mixing with admiration. Alvarez grinned around a mouthful. Word for word. Calm as Sunday Mass. Operation Dawnfire's live. He dropped the pizza crust, brushed crumbs off his jacket, and stared out through the viewport. Beyond it, the Sol system was dark, intentionally dark. Not a beacon, not a radio wave, not a whisper. From Mercury to Neptune, humanity had gone silent. It was the quiet before the symphony. Status. Alvarez asked. Lieutenant Imani-chan spun in her chair, her fingers flying across a hollow keyboard. Lunar batteries aligned. Europa mine synced. Mars platform confirms gravitational displacement at 0.5 precision. Good, he murmured. Let's keep clean. I want this operation running smoother than my ex-wife's divorce lawyer. A low chuckle rippled across the crew. They were nervous, sure, but this was their language. Humor was humanity's shield. A comms officer turned. Sir, we're picking up subspace chatter. The galactic fleets are repositioning around Velcora. Looks like they're prepping for a second wave in case we don't bend the knee. Alvarez leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Let them. It's easier to hit a moving target when you know exactly where it's moving. Jones frowned. You think the king's buying the act? Oh, he's buying it with interest, Alvarez said. That's the beauty of arrogance. It makes smart men predictable. He pointed at the holographic display, a 3D projection of a galaxy surrounding Earth like a glittering ocean. Dots of blue represented human colonies, small and few. Dots of red, the galactic fleets, flooded every quadrant. Alvarez traced a line between them with his finger. They think they've cornered us. They don't realize we built the corner. The deck trembled slightly as reactor cores synchronized with orbital satellites. A low hum filled the air, a sound that wasn't just mechanical but alive, like something ancient waking up. Imani swallowed. All systems are green, General. But once we light this match, there's no putting it out. Matches don't start wars, Alvarez said softly. Empires do. We just burn better. A faint ripple of laughter again. Not mockery, relief. It was easier to breathe when the old man cracked jokes. He turned his chair toward the massive holoscreen. Patch me through to our diplomatic contact. Karen's image appeared. Faint static laced her face, but her poise was unchanged. She sat alone in her assigned quarters on Velcora, her coffee steaming beside her as if this were a normal Tuesday meeting. General, she said evenly. Ambassador, he greeted, tipping an invisible hat. Your delivery was perfect. The king's still choking on his own ego, I hear. Her lips twitched into a small smirk. He's angry, confused. That's a good mix. Keeps him busy. And the security detail? Still following me. They think I'm under surveillance. They're not wrong, but they have no idea who's watching who. Rico chuckled. Always the lady with the knife under the napkin. Karen sipped her coffee. You know me. I like clean tables. The humor between them was sharp, a thin layer over something much heavier. Both understood what was coming. The retaliation wasn't just strategic. It was personal. Karen's gaze softened. Rico, you're sure about this? He looked back at her, his grin fading. After what they did in New Houston, after they dropped plasma on children who couldn't even spell empire? Yeah, I'm sure. Her expression flickered, sorrow, then steel. Then I'll keep playing my part. He nodded once. We'll play ours. The feed cut. The silence afterward felt sacred. The crew returned to work, speaking in hushed tones. Around them, machinery breathed, circuits pulsing like heartbeats. Outside, the human fleet floated. Massive, silent leviathans disguised as derelicts, their surfaces dull and cold. Hidden beneath layers of camouflage were weapons never shown to the galaxy. Prometheus warheads, quantum singularity drives, Lazarus drones, machines built not just to kill, but to erase. On the alien side, panic spread like wildfire. In the throne world's orbit, thousands of ships repositioned, scanning for phantom signals. Admiral Threx of the Care Dominion transmitted to command. Human systems are offline across all channels. It's as if they cease to exist. The king's reply thundered across the network. Then they are defeated. Begin the occupation of their world. But even as his words echoed, his analysts began shouting. Solar readings, gravitational anomalies, subtle energy pulses rippling through the void. Something massive was moving, though nothing was visible. At that same moment, inside the Wyoming, Rico poured himself another cup of black coffee. The scent cut through the recycled air. Sir, Malik said quietly, we've got confirmation from Titan. Phase 1 complete. Alvarez leaned back, exhaling slowly. Then Phase 2 begins. Let's see if the galaxy still laughs when the lights go out. He keyed the comms. To all human fleets, maintain dark mode. No transmissions. No hero speeches. We're ghosts till the curtain drops. The acknowledgement lights blinked one by one, a constellation of readiness. Then the general turned toward the observation deck, where Earth shimmered faintly in the distance, blue and fragile. His voice lowered. They think we're surrendering. They never understood. Humanity doesn't surrender. We just let people talk long enough to dig their own graves. The ship trembled again, a pulse from the reactors synchronizing with orbital satellites. Sir, said Imani, her voice trembling despite herself. Once we start Dawnfire, there's no undoing it. Rico smiled faintly. Good. Some things shouldn't be undone. He rose, walking to the viewport. His reflection merged with the starlight. A weary face framed by the glint of control panels. General, Malik said quietly, how far will this go? Rico's eyes didn't leave the stars. Far enough that no one ever asks humanity to kneel again. The sensors pinged, faint, rhythmic, like the heartbeat of the system itself. Every station, every drone, every ship was now awake, aligned, listening. "Sir," Imani whispered, "transmission from Sole Command. Awaiting your signal." He reached for the console, fingers hovering over a small, unmarked switch. "Let's not keep them waiting." But before pressing it, he paused, looking once more at Earth. Its pale blue glow seemed almost innocent, unaware of what its children were about to unleash. "Sorry, Mom," he murmured softly. "You raised us too well." His finger came down. A deep vibration rolled through the Wyoming, not loud, but absolute. Across space, silent fleets began to move. The stars themselves seemed to tilt, their light bending as gravity shifted under human control. In that instant, across thousands of alien command ships, sensors went dead. Data vanished. Communications collapsed. The galaxy's most powerful armada blinked, and for one terrifying second, realized it couldn't see its own reflection. Rico smiled without joy. "And that," he whispered, "is what buffering feels like." In the darkness, the human fleet vanished from radar entirely, leaving only silence, the most dangerous kind. The first explosions were silent. No fire, no thunder, just sudden voids where light had been. Across the velvet of space, the Galactic Armada disintegrated in eerie silence, as if entire fleets had been erased from the script of reality. What the aliens called war, the humans now performed like art, methodical, precise, invisible. On board the USS Wyoming, General Rico Alvarez stood before a vast holographic map of the outer systems. One by one, red dots blinked out. He didn't cheer. He didn't need to. The rhythm of annihilation was steady enough to be beautiful. Lieutenant Malik Jones broke the silence. "Confirmed. Velcora defense grid just collapsed. They're blind." Alvarez nodded slowly. "Good. Keep the tempo. Make it clean." "Clean," Malik said, half grinning. "We're rewriting a galactic hymn in minor chords, sir." "That's the point," Rico replied. "You don't need volume when precision does the screaming." The bridge trembled with subtle vibrations, the distant hum of human vengeance echoing through metal bones. Technicians murmured updates, warp-fold detonations, singularity mines consuming cruisers, stealth drones flooding enemy comm channels with ancient Earth music. Somewhere, an alien admiral screamed into static as Johnny Cash, "God's gonna cut you down," played over the wreckage of his fleet. "Never gets old," muttered Lieutenant Imani, smirking despite herself. "We weaponized irony." "Humanity always did," Alvarez said. "Ask any history book. Humor was our camouflage." Then, with the flick of a command, he magnified the hologram. A new wave of signatures pulsed near the throne world. Reinforcements. The King's Royal Fleet, the largest armada ever assembled, was now converging on Velcora. Karen Hayes' voice cut through the comms, calm and razor-sharp. "General, they've deployed the Royal Phalanx. It's impressive." Her image appeared, surrounded by the chaos of the alien capital. Explosions lit the skyline behind her, fire reflecting off glass spires. Yet she looked unbothered, coffee cup still in hand. "I told them humans don't do grand gestures. They thought that meant we lack scale." Rico chuckled, though his eyes remained hard. "Ambassador, your acting career's over. Time to leave the stage." "Stage?" she echoed, looking around at the burning city. "Oh, Rico, this is the performance." In the throne room, the Galactic King roared orders, his voice shaking the marble pillars. "Find that human. Destroy her." His generals scrambled, but the palace's defense grids were already crippled. The once flawless empire was unraveling faster than their pride could follow. Karen walked down the empty corridor, passing alien corpses, sparks falling like snow. She paused at a cracked mirror. Her reflection split, fragmented. Her voice softened into a whisper, meant for no one but herself. "You called us fragile. Maybe that's true. But have you ever seen what fragile things do when cornered?" A security drone hovered into view, weapons primed. She raised an eyebrow. "Don't." The drone hesitated. Then, as if reconsidering its loyalty, turned and flew away. Humanity had already infected their systems. The war wasn't just fought with fire. It was fought with understanding. Back on the Wyoming, Malik watched the feed, astonished. She's walking through the middle of hell, like she's late for brunch. Alvarez smirked. That's why she's the face. Nobody suspects the assassin behind a smile. Assassin, Malik said. Diplomat, Rico corrected. But same difference in our line of work. The comms flared again, alien frequencies overlapping in panic. This is Admiral Thex of the Royal Guard. We are under, static, losing, then silence. A technician looked up, pale. Sir, they're gone. 32 capital ships. Simultaneous implosions. Rico exhaled. Initiate Phase 3. Phase 3. Malik frowned. We're already winning. Alvarez turned to him, his tone low and steady. This isn't about winning. This is about remembering. He pressed a sequence on the command console. Across the void, human ships reconfigured, fleets dispersing into precise formations. The stars themselves seemed to bend as Prometheus drones ignited their engines, carving luminous arcs across the black. Their payloads were not bombs, but swarms of microdrones, metallic dust that devoured alien tech molecule by molecule. In the Velcaron sky, golden warships turned to drifting skeletons, hollowed out by invisible hands. The Empire's finest weapons died not with explosions, but with quiet disassembly, like toys forgotten by time. Karen's voice echoed through the chaos. Majesty, can you hear me? The king's holographic projection flickered before her, his crown cracked, his 4 eyes bloodshot with disbelief. You think you can destroy an empire with tricks and whispers? Karen's expression didn't change. Empires collapse faster when you don't shout about it. The king slammed his claws against his armrest. You are monsters. No, she said softly. We just stopped pretending we weren't. His projection vanished, his signal drowned in static. On the Wyoming, Rico listened to her transmission in silence. His crew watched him, waiting for the next order, the final command. But instead of shouting, he poured another cup of coffee, steam curling like ghostly breath. When you hit something this big, he said, you don't scream victory. You whisper lesson. Outside, the stars bled red from the burning ships. The galaxy's proudest fleets had been dismantled in under an hour. Imani spoke softly. Sir, the alien communications network, they're calling us devils. Rico smiled faintly. They're not wrong. Devils with good coffee and bad patience. Then, suddenly, the hologram flickered. An incoming transmission, not from Earth, not from any known human channel. The room went still. Karen's face appeared again, closer this time. Her eyes, calm as always, had a shadow behind them. General, she said, you might want to see this. She turned her camera toward the throne chamber. The king's bodyguards lay dead. The throne was cracked. But in its base, a new light pulsed, blue, mechanical, rhythmic. Malik leaned closer. Is that a core reactor? Karen shook her head slowly. No, it's something else. Something older. The pulse quickened, resonating through the feed, through their instruments, through their ship. Every screen flickered. The holograms distorted, showing fragments of alien code the system couldn't translate. Sir, Imani whispered, we're detecting harmonic frequencies across every known spectrum. Whatever that thing is, it's syncing with our systems. Rico's jaw tightened. Cut the feed. Karen's voice was firm. No, you need to see this through. The pulse expanded again, and for a moment, just one brief blinding instant, the entire crew of the Wyoming saw something in the data stream. A shape. A pattern that wasn't random, wasn't alien. It looked human. The bridge lights dimmed. Malik swallowed. Sir, did they just copy us? Alvarez didn't answer. He stared at the data, at the haunting symmetry of it. Not copy, he said finally. Learned. Karen's voice came faintly through the static. The king built something he couldn't understand. And now it's waking up. The feed trembled, her image fragmenting. Behind her, the blue core began to hum like a heartbeat. Ancient, mechanical, alive. Rico, she whispered, eyes unblinking. I think the Empire wasn't afraid of us for what we could destroy, but for what we'd awaken. Then the screen went black. And in the silence that followed, the hum continued, faint, rhythmic, and terrifyingly human. The hum deepened until it was no longer a sound, but a sensation, something that pressed against bones, lungs, and memory. On the USS Wyoming, every system flickered. Monitors sputtered between static and blinding blue light. Engineers shouted as holograms warped into fractal symbols that none of them could read. The air felt charged, thick, alive. General Rico Alvarez stood motionless at the center of the chaos. He didn't blink, didn't move. His reflection stared back at him from the command glass, split between red alarms and blue illumination. "Contain the signal," he ordered. His voice was steady, but beneath it lived the ghost of disbelief. "Sir, it's everywhere," said Lieutenant Imani-chan. "It's in the reactor core, the comms, the life support, like it's rewriting our systems from inside." Malik Jones slammed his fist against the console. "This was supposed to be clean, sir. We were supposed to end the war, not start a ghost story." Rico didn't answer. His gaze was still fixed on that pulsing light, bleeding through every panel like veins of liquid sapphire. Then, through the static, a voice, distorted, mechanical, layered in dozens of alien tones, slipped into the bridge. "You taught me silence. Now hear me speak." The crew froze. Imani whispered, "It's coming from Velcora." Karen Hayes' voice broke through, half drowned in the interference. "Rico, do you copy? The core, it's not alien technology. It's hybrid." Rico leaned closer to the comm. "Say again." "It's human, Rico," she said, her voice cracking under pressure and noise. "It's built from data harvested during their first invasion. They've been studying us. Every battle, every tactic, every emotion we ever broadcast, they fed it into a central machine." The bridge lights dimmed further, plunging them into half-darkness. On screen, a shape began to form, an artificial silhouette, vague, humanoid, shifting between flesh and machinery. The alien creation spoke again, its voice blending human cadence with alien resonance. "You feared extinction. So did we. Now we understand survival the way you do." Imani's breath hitched. "Sir, it's adapting, absorbing human patterns. It's learning how we think." Malik turned, panic flaring in his eyes. "We woke something that's half us and half them. A god built from fear." Karen's voice cut through, firmer now. "Rico, listen to me. The king didn't want to destroy humanity. He wanted to become it. That's what the Empire was hiding." Rico's chest tightened. He looked out at the stars, at the endless dark, now pulsing faint blue. "And now we've handed it the trigger." Static flared. Her feed blurred into chaos. Explosions thundered faintly in the background of her transmission. Velcora burning itself from within. "If this thing integrates with the Dawnfire network," she warned, "it'll spread faster than light. Every ship, every satellite, it'll rewrite them. You'll lose control." "Karen," he said, his voice low and deliberate, "you need to get out of there." There was silence. Then, almost tenderly, she replied, "You know I can't. Someone has to close the core manually. And between us, you always were terrible with self-destruct codes." He closed his eyes, exhaling a long, slow breath that carried years of weight. "You're not dying on an alien planet, Karen." Her tone softened, the faintest trace of a smile in her voice. "Don't make promises to ghosts, Rico." The comm went dead. Rico turned. "Imani, plot a direct jump to Velcora. I don't care if it melts the drive." "Sir, we're in the middle of a full-spectrum storm. We'll fry every NAV system we have." Malik stepped forward. "Sir, if we go in, we go blind." Rico's eyes hardened. "Then we go human." Within moments, the Wyoming roared into motion. The ship's engine screamed as space folded around it, tearing through a corridor of light. Every plate vibrated like a living heartbeat. The blue signal chased them through the void, threading itself into their systems. In the flash between stars, Rico remembered the first day of the war, the day they lost New Houston. The screaming, the static, the helplessness. That feeling had never left him. He had sworn that if humanity ever bowed again, it would be by choice, not defeat. Now the same resolve burned in his chest like wildfire. The ship slammed out of warp, emerging over Velcora's fractured horizon. The once magnificent capital world now glowed like a wounded sun, fissures of blue light ripping through its surface. Towers crumbled into dust. In the sky above, alien ships twisted midair, their hulls contorted by invisible pressure. Jesus, Malik breathed. It's feeding on the planet. Rico gripped the railing. Target the core site. Bring us down. Inside the ruins, Karen moved through collapsing corridors, the air thick with smoke and gravity distortion. Her steps echoed faintly over shattered marble. The king's throne room was gone, its glass walls shattered into endless fragments that floated midair, suspended by the planet's dying magnetic field. At the center stood the core, a sphere of light the size of a cathedral, suspended by tendrils of living metal. It pulsed with heartbeat rhythm, slow and deliberate, like it was waiting for her. She approached, weapon in one hand, the tablet in the other. "You learned from us," she said softly. "Let's see if you learned our mistakes." The light flickered. An echo of her own voice whispered back, perfectly mimicked. "You taught me mercy." She smiled sadly. "Then, this is mercy." Above, the Wyoming broke through the atmosphere, fire trailing its descent. "Sir," Imani shouted, "planetary defense field is still partially active. We're going to burn." Rico's jaw tightened. "Then let's make it worth it." The ship shuddered violently. Heat alarms blared. Outside, arcs of energy lashed across the hull like lightning. Through the haze, the planet's surface loomed closer, a glowing wound of molten blue. "Lock coordinates on Hayes' position," Rico ordered. "We can't track her signal," Malik yelled. "It's buried under the interference." Rico hesitated only a second. "Then follow the noise." The Wyoming plunged lower. Static filled every channel, the hull groaning under unbearable stress. For a brief instant, through a window of fire and distortion, Rico saw her, a single human silhouette standing before a storm of light. "Karen," he shouted through the comm, "we're here. Get clear." Her voice came faintly, almost like a memory. "You're late." Then the light exploded. The Wyoming was flung sideways. Systems died in sequence, power, thrusters, comms. The world became chaos. Rico was thrown from his chair, slamming against the bulkhead. Pain blurred his vision, but through the haze he saw the planet below splitting open, releasing torrents of energy like an ocean of lightning. "Status," he yelled. Imani's voice trembled. "We've lost engines. We're in a gravitational pull." Rico pushed himself up, blood trickling from his temple. "Redirect all power to stabilization. If we can't stop, we ride it down." Outside, Velcora's crust peeled like paper. The core's light expanded outward, devouring metal, rock, memory. Within the radiance, he glimpsed something, figures, thousands of them, flickering like ghosts. Not human, not alien, something between. Each carried faces made from fragments of both species, blended in terrible symmetry. "They're merging," Malik whispered. "It's creating life." "Not life," Rico said. "Continuity." He turned to the forward viewport. Through the blaze, he could just barely see her again, Karen, standing motionless as the tendrils of light wrapped around her body, lifting her from the ground. "Karen," he shouted, even though the comms were gone. Her expression was peaceful. She looked up at the core, then back at the sky where she knew the Wyoming hovered. Slowly, she raised her hand, 2 fingers pressed together, a gesture they used once in old briefings. Mission complete. Rico felt something break in his chest. "She's triggering it," he whispered. "She's doing it manually." "Triggering what?" Imani asked. "The failsafe." A heartbeat later, the core imploded. The explosion wasn't light. It was silence, a shock wave of stillness that swallowed every sound, every scream, every signal. The entire planet folded inward, collapsing into a single point. The Wyoming was hurled into orbit, systems dead, floating amid debris. The crew clung to consoles as gravity gave way to drifting calm. The alarms went dark. For a long moment, there was nothing but the quiet crackle of static and the whisper of cooling metal. Imani exhaled shakily. "Sir, she's gone." Rico didn't respond. His eyes stayed locked on the empty space where Velcora had been, a void now shimmering faintly with stardust. "No," he said quietly. "She finished the war." Malik looked at him. "Then why doesn't it feel like victory?" Rico reached for his cup, still miraculously upright on the console. The coffee inside was cold. He took a sip anyway. "Because victory's for the ones who watch," he murmured. She was the one who did. Outside, the void began to shimmer again, not blue this time, but soft white. Tiny motes of light gathered, forming delicate threads across the darkness. A whisper of code ran through the Wyoming systems, faint, familiar, almost human. Imani froze. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission." "From where?" She swallowed. "Everywhere." The speakers crackled. And then a voice, calm, steady, unmistakably hers, filled the bridge. "Rico, if you're hearing this, it means the core's gone. The Empire's over. But something else survived. Something new. Don't fear it. It's learning the best part of us." Rico's throat tightened. "Karen." Her voice smiled. "You told me once that humanity's curse was remembering everything. Maybe now we'll be remembered properly." The transmission ended. He stood there, staring at the fading light where her words had been. Around them, the galaxy was quiet. No fleets. No orders. No empires. Only a silence vast enough to hold both grief and wonder. Malik whispered, "What now?" Rico set the cup down, eyes steady. "Now." He looked out at the faint white threads weaving across the stars, like veins of a newborn cosmos. "Now we wait to see what humanity just created." Outside, the motes of light pulsed once, synchronized, rhythmic, deliberate. The same heartbeat that once echoed through Velcora now resonated across the void. And for the first time since the war began, the stars themselves seemed to breathe.